different in my approach, my perspective. Is this on? Is this sounding on? Okay, good. I'm definitely going to be coming from a very different angle, so bear with me. It does all stitch together, and it's going to be quite interesting for all of us to talk later about just how our work can benefit each other and challenge each other. But very quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the power sector, what's happening in the power sector. There's two words resonating with me here today. One is curiosity, and the other one is innovation. So curiosity in the power sector and the construction sector seems to have been squashed systematically for a very long time. And I would say that's exactly the same in the power sector. And the same with innovation. I think if construction has been slow to innovate, the power sector's just behind you. So I'm going to talk about infrastructure, resiliency and adaptation, and the age of information and how it's affecting the way we get energy. So just a very brief, Decentralized Energy Canada represents this transition from a centralized, monolithic, single-direction, transmission-connected system of getting electrons to and from the generation station to the end users, and this transition that started 16 years ago in Canada to a more efficient, smarter, distributed, bidirectional, and more affordable system, which is the diversified and decentralized energy system. So by the end of this quick presentation, hopefully you have an understanding of my world and the challenges, big challenges we've had in the past 16 years. I've been in it for 25 years, past 16 with Decentralized Energy Canada, and I'm only now seeing the pickup of what I've been laying down. So let's go to Alberta for just a second. Alberta is kind of the last, well, one of the last out of the gate in terms of transitioning from a coal-fired energy system to renewables or cleaner natural gas. Most of Canada is baseload hydro, one of the cleanest sources of energy you can get. But Alberta's now said, in 2000 we had 60% coal. By 2030 we're going to have 70% gas, 30% renewables. This is huge. This is a massive undertaking. It's very ambitious. There are two problems that I'm still not seeing being addressed. One is, even with the coal industry, a huge percentage, the majority of the hunk of coal that winds up in your light bulb, the majority of that first hunk of coal is gone. We've lost almost all of that energy. You're less than 10% of that hunk of coal, which means you had issues like waste heat. So in Alberta, 393 petajoules of waste heat, enough to have energy for 4 million homes, has gone straight up the flue stack or dropped off the transmission line or the distribution line. Moving to natural gas as our base is not going to help that unless the regulations say build your communities, build your homes so that they're matched to thermal. Like, you want to match your energy generation with thermal. It's a very important asset. It's a very problematic waste. Water vapor is the most important GHG. And the second one, I get obsessed with the first one. The second one is intermittency of renewables, and I actually see solutions to that. But I also see problems. But anyways, now I'm going to just give you a little glimpse into why is the power sector transforming finally? And it's a few of these slides here are leading up to the transmission costs. So it's not the cost of making watts. And another interesting point is coal power is not the cheapest way to produce power. Right now, wind has the lowest, utility scale wind has the lowest levelized cost of energy. Natural gas has the next, utility scale solar. And interestingly enough, industrial energy systems like advanced nuclear technology are very competitive with the natural gas right now. And I think you'll start to see those come online in the sectors that need it, like industrial energy. Going back to the residential, this is my energy bill in urban Alberta. It costs 6.8 cents to produce energy. Why am I paying 19 cents? And this is a new thing. This is not, back in 2002 I was paying 10 or 11 cents. Why am I paying 19 cents? Over 60% of my bill is delivery costs now. And we all want to know why. What's causing that? Transmission infrastructure is a massively expensive asset. So the other thing that is flittering around in my head for the past 2 weeks is that at the Power Finance Conference in Toronto, Fitch Ratings stood up and I quote, "It is getting harder to justify the extra cost of transmission-connected power. We are looking more to more building closer to the load." I didn't have to say it. I've been saying it for 15 years, but finally, I mean, if you look at $4.5 billion to build a kilometer of transmission line, that's an Alberta number. In some rural areas of Alberta, there are only 3 customers per kilometer. So we're all paying for that infrastructure, and there is a better way of doing it. And with collaboration with the construction industry and architects, we can do amazing things. If we put aside now how expensive transmission infrastructure is to build, to maintain, and who's going to pay for that, the other thing coming down the pipeline really quickly is electric vehicles. This is possibly the most disruptive technology for the power sector. For a very long time, we've had Fitbits, laptops, iPads that you're charging. And that didn't really cause much of an issue. But when you have, by 2040, 2 billion electric vehicles on the road that are charging and discharging at will, whenever they need it, unpredictable location of where they're charging, you're going to see a power sector getting extremely stressed about their distribution stations, their substations, voltage stability, reliability of power, and we're not ready for it. Again, there's solutions. So if we look at why these electric vehicles are coming down the pipeline, I would have said 7 years ago, the main impetus behind electric vehicles was point source pollutions. So it was China and India and very heavily populated countries of the world that were realizing the high cost of health issues. Not anymore. So the electric drivetrain outperforms, bottom line, outperforms in performance and financial compared to the combustion engine. So why did I say that way? Oh, it's very good. It's higher horsepower, higher torque. I saw Peter Tertzakian on Twitter the other day saying, "This is great, I'm the only car that can make it through this ice because of the weight of his car and the traction and the horsepower." And I actually do think, contrary to what other people think, I do think the heavy transport vehicles and buses are going to be the first to adopt this, and mining vehicles. And just to kind of re-emphasize that this trend is happening, there are 7 countries in the world that have banned internal combustion engines. So Norway, by 2025, you will not be able to buy or manufacture, not that they manufacture many cars, but by 2025, that's it, it's history. They're already 40%. India, China, Germany. Wow. I say no more. I mean, this is where our cars come from. So if you cannot buy an internal combustion engine from India, China, or Germany, you're not probably going to buy an internal combustion engine. And actually, that little thing on the left is the Guinness Book of World Records traffic jam in Shanghai, which I'm not talking about autonomous vehicles today, but that's another very interesting thing. This is Canada today. We have over 3,000 electric vehicle charging stations, which surprised me. So this has been released by Natural Resources Canada a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, oh, we'll have a couple of spatterings on there. Over 3,000. So we're starting to pick up the pace. I'd actually say the charging infrastructure is kind of advancing faster than people buying the electric vehicles, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You want the infrastructure to support your drivers. Another really cool thing happening in this space is the charging infrastructure. So you have level 1, 2, bog standard, go down to Canadian Tire or whatever. I mean, these are off the shelf, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Level 3, 4, superchargers, which is what Tesla's actually going around and installing for free. Pan Canada, Fairmont hotels. They're not charging for the actual charging equipment. Too many chargings in there. They're actually just creating a contract for power so that the use of it is what they get paid on. But the really cool thing to watch for is wireless induction charging. So If you think of supercapacitors next to a battery, a supercapacitor has a big mouth, a little belly. And a battery's got a little mouth and big belly, so it can hold a lot of charge, but it takes a long time to fully juice that battery. Supercapacitors, block it with a bolt of lightning and it's fully charged and away you go. The idea behind supercapacitors and wireless charging is that under segments of your highways, or at bus stops, or at taxi ranks, or at red lights, cars with the induction wire charger will get 15 to 20 seconds of juice. And that's 20–25% of their full store. And in taxi ranks, they can go from 0 to full. This is very big in the infrastructure. It is very disruptive. And it doesn't address some of the things like this, which I think is another, it's kind of been alluded to in the other panelists that we have to pay attention. This is not going away. Yeah, it's not going away, and it's very expensive. So $330 billion was last year's price on natural disasters. Never have we exceeded that except for 2011, when that natural disaster in Japan included Fukushima, and three level 7 meltdowns, or no, level 7 meltdowns in 3 reactors, which is extremely expensive. So last year we didn't have something quite as terrifying as that, but $330 billion. At what point does it become affordable for us to be adaptable and resilient and to integrate into our infrastructure and our buildings an ability to overcome and recover? So Annalise, I think, had some of this in her. Universities all over the world have been studying how do we protect our houses from floods, hurricanes, earthquakes. There's technology out there, but right now it remains in universities. And again, I go back to how expensive does it have to be for us to figure out, I mean, flooding is the most simple thing. I mean, you stick your house on stilts. So that one in Berkshire, it's like, that wasn't even an expensive thing for them. The one in Florida, Pensacola, it is up for sale for like $1.5 million, and I think it costs $750,000 to build it. Anyways, I have information on these if you're interested, but they get pretty university geeky on your show. I'm starting to go into the communities and self-sufficiency of communities. Apple Park, 100% renewable. And I have to have these around sometimes to check my facts. So this is 100% renewable energy, the first and largest LEED Platinum certified office building in North America. No, it's the largest. 100% renewable, 75% from 17 megawatts of on-site rooftop solar, and 4 megawatts from baseload biogas fuel cells. When Apple Park has more electricity being produced on site than it needs, it actually sells to Pacific Gas and Electric. When it needs more energy than it's producing, it actually buys from a neighboring solar flats project. They've got it going on. There's all sorts of other things going on there that are pretty cool. But on the energy side, 100% renewable. Luzhou Forest in China. This is, his name's Stefano Bori, and he's an architect, and probably all of you know about him. This concept in Luzhou, in Chinese Forest City, is what it's called. 30,000 people. This community can absorb 10,000 tons of CO2 and 57 tons of pollution per year and produces approximately 900 tons of oxygen. The purpose here is to say that, I mean, contrary to what we heard at this morning's breakfast presentation, China is very concerned about their emissions, and they are absolutely dealing with it. And they are ahead of the game. So this is going into microgrids. So what does our future look like in terms of power for communities and cities? So the idea of a microgrid is you are less reliant on that big, expensive transmission line, and you have a network of micro grids or micro distribution wires that are connecting all of your generators that are within the community, whether that's solar, natural gas, some batteries, micro wind. You're connecting those generators to the loads within a boundary. And there are amazing things happening in this space, and they're very much supported by what Craig was talking about. I mean, for our organization last year was about energy storage. And I do have to say, because I have a little bit of time here, I do have to say we have to be very aware of what we wish for. Just because we're going renewable does not mean we're going green. And we have to be extremely conscious of this environmental footprint of energy storage, which is why my last slide has circular economy. But if we can find ways to recover metals and carbon from asphaltenes and from our industry and utilize them for our product today, and keep that circular economy, we will be in good stead. If we forget about that, and if we continue to think that we can just suck this planet dry whenever we want, we're going to be in trouble again on the renewable side because of the energy storage issue. So last year was energy storage. This year, it's all about information. So artificial intelligence, algorithms for smarter systems and managing systems, machine learning, automation. Your house will be autonomous, your car will be autonomous. And there will be wrinkles we have to iron out on this front. But I think the gate is open, the train has left the station. We're going down this path. And so we need lots of people to get their brains and their ideas and to test things out and to punch holes through it to make sure we either fail fast on a technology or be really successful and progressive on it. Blockchain's huge for us. Like, in terms of construction versus power sector, there is no trust between a consumer and the utility right now, and rightly so. If you want to look at where your costs are coming from, you can't really find it, and it doesn't really add up. So the idea of blockchain providing transparent, accountable, reliable data that you can see where it's coming from, you can understand how it came to that number, it's something the power sector has needed for a very long time, and I think the adoption rate for that, and I think if you and I can partner on blockchain and construction and power sector, I think we could do some fun stuff. So just watch this space. In terms of the power sector, smart and microgrids, we're going to have a much smarter way for delivering and managing energy, and I think it'll be thermal and power combined. And the electric vehicle infrastructure, really, we need to pay attention. It's happening, and it's happening for more than just pollution reasons. Artificial intelligence, yeah, I don't think I need to say, but the circular economy. I think this one could be complicated, and I'm kind of early in my phases of my background is geography and environmental impact assessments, and I understand how important it is. I just wonder how we can integrate it into our society and economy in a quick and effective way, but I'll be working on it. And that's it. Thank you very much.